Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to talk about what I read over the past 4 days. So I had a bit of a 4-day weekend, and I used the opportunity to read quite a bit. I did finish Firestarter by Stephen King, and it's been a long time since I finished a Stephen King read and finished a Stephen King book, so I was very happy about that. That one was really good. I will talk about more on that when I do my wrap up at the end of August for July and August. But that one was really cool. It kind of highlighted a fear that I think a lot of people have, which is government experimentation and using humans as weapons in war. And I have not seen the adaptation yet, but I know there's an adaptation that came out recently starring Zac Efron as the dad, and I don't know who else is in it. And then, of course, it made me think a little bit. At one point, it made me think of Stranger Things. So if you, or especially this most recent season, with season 4, where Elle is brought back to, with that doctor whose name I don't remember, and they're trying to help her regain her powers. It kind of reminded me of that, except for our main character, the kid in Firestarter, is a lot younger than her, is a bit younger than her. At that point on the show, she is like, probably like 14 or 15, and this character, Charlie, is like 10 or 11, so she's about the age that 11 was when the show started. So if you ever did like if you like this show, if you like the show, you'll like this book. I feel like that would probably be a good comparison. Firestarter and Stranger Things, or at least in season 4 of Stranger Things. So I finished that, and I was very pleased. I was happy that I got that finished. And then I went to the library again, which I will show you what I got from the library. And I ended up returning, of course, Sanctus. I finished that one, not this weekend, but that was one of the ones I returned, along with Titanic, A Survivor Story, which that was really good. Really interesting. Although, if you're more a fan of Titanic and wanting to learn more about Titanic, then this one kind of talks about it. It has 2 chapters on this woman, Violet Jessup, and how her experience on Titanic and how she survived. But it's not the main focus. She is the main focus. Herself, who she is as a person and her life experiences, not just on Titanic, but on ships in general. So it does talk a lot about her being a steward and the challenges she had to face as a beautiful young woman working on a ship and being a stewardess. So that one was really very informative and very inspiring, because you definitely got to admire Violet Jessup. She was a very strong woman, very self-assured, and she went through a lot. So I ended up the next book those books that I got from the library. I read this one, The Family Ciao by Samantha, Chang. And I know people have mixed feelings about this, especially people that are Chinese American, which this is about a Chinese American family. It is a retelling of Brothers Karamazov, and even though I have not finished Brothers Karamazov, I definitely can see the comparisons between Brothers Karamazov and this book, especially like the roles of the characters play. But it's like, so it's about this Chinese American family and how they own a restaurant, and their dad is a really good cook, but he's also a narcissist, and he's a narcissist, and he's not, people hate him. People do not like him. He's an ass. And he has 3 sons. His wife left him, now lives in a convent, in what she calls a spiritual house. and his sons have a very complicated relationship with him, and he ends up getting murdered, and one of the sons clearly is seen as the killer, and the other sons are trying to protect him and be like he didn't do it, or at least defend him even if he did, which is what happens to Brothers Karamazov. I mean, I don't know for sure if that's exactly what happens, but yeah, that's basically the premise of Brothers Karamazov. And a lot of people say that there's a lot of stereotypes, and there is something in here that really kind of made me uncomfortable and bothered me. But I will talk more about that when I get to the wrap up. Although I guess I could, I'm not going to have this. Well, no, I'll just wait until then. I just won't be able to show you an image of it because I still can't do the whole showing an image on the screen of a cover. But I think it's pretty good, I mean, there are probably things she could improve on, but it is her debut, and I think. And it is a retelling. Maybe Brothers Karamazov shouldn't be retold, but as another reviewer pointed out, but it's good writing, and I'm definitely engaged and riveted by the story. The good news is it's not super long. I really appreciate character stories. At least when I borrow them from a library, I appreciate character-driven stories that aren't super long. This is close to 300 pages, but to me that's not that bad. And then I decided to go ahead, because I've heard so much about this, is go ahead. It kind of fits the theme for the summer of, water and fire, or at least heat. This is a retelling of 1001 Nights, and our main character's already been sent on this mission to retrieve this magic lamp. So it kind of has Aladdin feels. And she is known as the night merchant. She's a bit of a thief herself. And she, along with her jinn bodyguard, they accompany the prince, the sultan's son, in one of his 40 thieves, because he's the king of the 40 thieves. Although, well, no, actually I won't tell you that part. I'll let you guys read it if you're interested. And they are at the part where they're actually in the desert. And unfortunately, Qadir, her jinn bodyguard, cannot reveal. He has to be careful because he cannot reveal that he's a jinn. Because in this world, the jinn had been too powerful at one point, so the humans decided to get rid of them and put them in their own secret place. And the Sultan wants them all killed. That's why he wants to find this magic lamp, so we can wipe out all the jinn. And her bodyguard, Qadir, is a jinn who saved her life. And I really had an interesting part where they go to the lure of a ghoul. A ghoul lures them down to his little cave or whatever, and he has the prince in his thrall. He has tricked the prince, and the two thieves, have to go save him. So it's pretty good so far. It feels like, I don't know if it's meant to be YA or not, but it feels a little YA-like, at times. Although more interesting than a lot of YA, in my opinion. But I don't read a lot of stories like this. So this is kind of, even though it's probably not that original, I feel like I don't read a lot of stories like this in the fantasy genre. And I did, after, when I was thinking about this, I decided to go find the audiobook for City and Brass, which is also kind of a same set kind of setting, and there's jinn involved, and this character finds herself taken the city of the jinn. So it's a similar story. It's a trilogy. So I decided to put that and look for that on Libby, and I put it on hold so I can read it. Or listen to it in the future. Listen to it in 4 weeks, to be precise. Because I really like this. I like the idea of jinn, and ever since, I saw the movie Aladdin when I was a kid, which is one of my favorite Disney movies, I've always been intrigued by Arabic culture in India and the Middle East. Because there's aspects of their culture I really like that I'm fascinated with. Now, there are some things, misogynistic mentalities that I don't like as an American woman. That I don't agree with, I don't understand, but, you know, other aspects of their culture and their religion I like. Middle Eastern. Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah, that was really cool, that little emblem right there. And I also like that when I take off the cover off of this, there's an image. I also appreciate that the chapters are short, because there have been times when I'm reading this, and the last couple nights I've been reading this in bed and then fall asleep, because I'm just so tired. Not because I'm bored, I'm just tired. So, I really like that. Now let's talk about the other books I got from the library that I will hopefully get to. Well, first, this is one of the books I got from the library last time, and that's Lauren Groff's Matrix, about a woman who's sent to a convent, and then she kind of decides to take over the convent and make these women a lot stronger and lead them. And I remember this was one of the books that Olive from Book Olive talked about, so I saw it. There was another book that she recently talked about as well, called Orchard, that I saw, and I was gonna get it and borrow it, but then I decided to stick with the ones I had here, because I try not to get too many books from the library, because I have my own personal books I need to get to. So, and I've said this before, that I like to prioritize the library books when I get them. But yeah, this is a book that I remember Oliver McCall talked about, so I decided to get it. And I was gonna get Orchard. But then also my hesitancy was because she does recommend you reading more of Anton Chekhov, because he's connected to it. But I might still get it anyway, even if I don't get to read Anton Chekhov. Like, maybe next time when I return these, I'll get it. But anyway, that one I had already had. I just renewed it this time. Okay. So, let's see. So first, we have George Washington's Secret Six. And this might have inspired I don't know if this was the book that inspired the TV show. What was it called? I can't remember the TV show, but it was a show about Washington Spies. I think that's what it was called. No, I think that was the subtitle. I don't think that was the main title, but that was the subtitle. Washington Spies. And, but this was George Washington, and created a ring of spies. And I believe Hercules Mulligan was one of them. Sorry, I'm listening to the Hamilton audiobook. And I think that's one of them. Okay, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I just got an alert on my phone. I don't know what that means. If maybe it's a flash flood warning or an amber alert or something, because we are getting rain right now, or maybe thunderstorms. And I'm really liking that show, but it's been a show that I like when it comes to historical fiction type shows, especially if it's not, I will go back and forth with it. Like, I'll like it for a period of time, and then I'll put it, like, stop, and then I'll come back to it later. But this might inspire me to come back to the show if I can find it on YouTube TV. I wish I could remember what it's called. But this is essentially about the spy ring he created during the Revolutionary War. So I thought that'd be an interesting topic. It's funny that all the books I have here, it's interesting that lately I've been kind of inspired to check on some nonfiction. Like, with the exception of one and the two books I already have, I have two really I just have two nonfiction. There's this one. So I thought that would be really interesting to talk about. Like, I kind of like that kind of I like that kind of stuff. Like, Especially the historical version of it. So, like, I probably won't read anything, like, set from the, the, like, stories about spies in the 1960s or, like, James Bond or anything like that. But, stuff like this kind of spy stuff is really interesting. Okay, so, let me go ahead and show you what the other nonfiction I got, which is a little bit longer, and I'll probably have to renew it. Either that, or maybe I might feel the pressure of feeling like, okay, I want to buy this, so I'll give it back to the library and then buy my own copy. But I mentioned in my last video, my video on most read authors, which if I upload this now, I guess you guys won't, because I'm probably going to upload this tonight or tomorrow, you guys probably won't see that video until that 7 on Sunday date. But I had talked about on that video how F. Scott Fitzgerald was one of my most read authors, and one of them anyway. And then I also mentioned how people have been realizing that a lot of these eccentric artists, their wives have been the ones behind their work, and the men have just been taking credit. And it's possible that Zelda Fitzgerald might have been behind some of F. Scott's work. So this is a biography of her life. And I guess her voice in Paradise, I'm guessing... Is it Paradise? This side of Paradise. Either that or just that might be the title I was thinking of, because there was one of his titles that I had read that I was trying to think of, and I think it might have been This Side of Paradise that I was trying to think of. Which, thank God, thanks for this little tagline. I remember that. But this is a biography of her. It was either this one, or I also looked at the Jimmy Stewart biography as well, but decided to stick with this one, and then maybe I'll get the Jimmy Stewart biography. But these are going to take me a while, more than 2 weeks to read, so there is that. And then the last book I have here is one that I debated about getting, and so I decided to go ahead and just borrow it from the library, and that's March. So I did read one of her books before, or I attempted to, but I just wasn't interested. I lost interest, and then I did that thing where I went on Goodreads and read the reviews, and that kind of influenced my decision to let that one go, which I know I shouldn't, but, sometimes it just makes things a lot easier reading other people's reviews, because then it determines what I like and don't like. But this is actually about Mr. March, from Little Women, and his story. And what was going on with him during when he was on, I think it was the Civil War. It was the Civil War that was going on in their book. And with them, we get the story of what their lives are like without him. And this one is about what was he doing in the war. And I believe he was like a doctor, I think. Let me just go ahead and, excuse me, let me just go ahead and read this too. As the North reels under a series of unexpected defeats during the dark first year of the Civil War, one man leaves behind his family to aid the Union cause. His experience will utterly change his marriage and challenge his most ardently held beliefs. Riveting, elegant as it is meticulously researched, March is an extraordinary novel woven out of the lore of American history by the author of international bestseller, The Year of Wonders. From Louisa May Alcott's beloved classic Little Women, Geraldine Brooks has taken the character of the absent father, Mr. March, who has gone off to war, leaving his wife and daughters to make do in mean times. To evoke his voice, Brooks turned to the journals and letters of Bronson Alcott, Louisa May's father, a friend and confidant of Ralph Waldo Emerson. and Henry David Thoreau. In Brooks' telling, Mr. March emerges as an idealistic chaplain. Oh, he was a chaplain. And the little-known backwaters of a war that will test his faith and into his faith in himself and in the Union cause as he learns that his side, too, is capable of acts of barbarianism and racism. As he recovers from a near-mortal illness, he must resemble his shattered mind and body and find a way to reconnect with a wife and daughters who have no idea of the ordeals he has been through. Spanning the vibrant intellectual world of Concord and the sensuousness of the antebellum South, March adds resonance to Alcott's optimistic children's tale and portrays the moral complexity of war and marriage, in a marriage tested by the demands of extreme idealism and by the temptations of a powerful forbidden attraction. A lushly written, wholly original tale steeped in the details of another time, March secures Geraldine Brooks' place as a renowned author of historical fiction. So I debated about this. I kept going back and forth because I have seen it at the roast office. So maybe when I start this and the next time I go to the roast office, if it's still there, I might buy it. I might just go and buy that book if I like this. But yeah, and it's not that long, which I really appreciate. So there is that. So that's how my reading, how things went during those 4 days I had off. I really appreciate having so many days off. I really like my schedule because, I get a good amount of days off. I'm very fortunate because I know sometimes people only have 1 or 2 days at the most. And I've been very lucky and been given like 3 days or even 4 days off, which is really nice. And, they've sometimes called me and asked me if I could come in. And I don't know if that's just a part-time thing or what, because I know, like, my friend Terry has a very different situation than mine, and she has told me she was part-time. Although no, she became full-time earlier this year. So, but she was part-time before, but her schedule is very different. But I think part-time, you have, like, 2 options. Like, you can work more days and not as many hours, not super long hours, or you can work a few days and work less hours. I mean work more hours. I don't know if that makes sense. But I have a schedule that I don't have a set schedule. I say I'm available, anytime. Although I don't want to work too late because since I do not drive myself, unfortunately one of the downsides of not driving is on having to rely on either public transport, or in my case, I live with my parents. Unfortunately, they can take me, but sometimes it kind of gets in the way of their lives because, my dad might schedule, a golf date or something, or he still works, at the golf course. And then my mom has a part-time job at the hospital here. So it's kind of sometimes it kind of gets in the way. I mean, they love me and they'll do it, but I feel bad. So that's the only thing about, so that's kind of one of the negatives. But other than that, I have a great schedule. So sometimes I get very fortunate to have 4 days off where I can do a lot of reading. Although I still get nervous they're going to call me and then I'm going to feel like I'm going to say yes. Because, at least say yes enough times that I don't feel like they'll hold that against me if I have to ever leave that job. Which I probably won't unless something happens to my parents and I have to go to live in Virginia. Live with my sister. Which is the plan. If something, happens to my parents, then I'll go to Virginia because I'd rather, live close to her. Because either way, I can't live on my own. And my situation is a little bit different. But anyway, so that was how my reading went those 4 days off. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. And, I hope you're enjoying your reading and having a good day if you watch this during the day, because I'm filming this in the evening, actually. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.